Hello everybody and welcome to Uprising 144K. I'm Hydrogen Man. Guys, this video has been a long time coming. I have some really wild information, but I'm not going to share it till the end because that's the way that this whole story is going to go. Before I begin, I want to let you know I'm not going to give you any medical advice. I'm definitely not making any medical claims. But with that being said, I've known a lot of people very close to me throughout my life, friends, family members, and just different people who ultimately have had cancer. And this has been going on again for literally decades. And I've seen these people go through many different either types of treatments, different modalities. And myself, I also had some pretty major health issues. But when these people were going through them many decades ago, I was having some medical issues, but they were eventually getting worse. And during that time, I would try little different things and it got more serious as time went on because my condition got more serious as time went on. But I'm gonna share some of the stuff that I know they have tried, that I have tried, that either worked or didn't work. And I want to share this information because I feel like there's so much information online. I know because I went online trying to find answers for myself and even for other people. And I literally got to see whether this stuff actually worked or didn't. So I'm going to share this information with you guys today because I think it's actually really important. And I'm not saying all this stuff is bad or good. I'm just going to tell you what actually happened. Very first person, I got some notes here because I don't want to forget any of it. There's a lot to go over. The first person that I can think of was an elderly woman, someone that I did personally know. And she did get cancer. And what ultimately happened with her as far as treatment, she was trying these like frequency devices like the med bed, these Tesla biohealers, stuff like that. It didn't work for her at all, actually. She also did some very interesting treatments where they would take the blood out of her and they would, I believe, ozonate it or oxygenate it. I don't remember what the treatment was because at the time, I just knew that she was doing something, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I remember her telling me that it made her body feel kind of warm and also that it made her feel like she had more energy. So she felt pretty good about it for about a week or two. It did not change the course of what was happening with her medically, unfortunately. She had also tried pine oil. Some people call it turpentine. Be very cautious with any of this information, guys. I am definitely not saying to do any of this stuff. This is just some of the stuff that she tried. That didn't work either. And that's mostly for killing parasites. Even some activated charcoal. I don't think that was really as much of a treatment as much as like a detox, but trying to detox certain aspects of things that were going on with her. But in the end, nothing really worked for her. And unfortunately, she did pass away and that was very sad. She also did do conventional treatment. So I should say that she did do the chemotherapy and whatnot. It didn't work. Okay, the next person was an older man. This particular guy also tried the pine oil, interestingly enough. He also tried, a lot of these people throughout the list tried hydrogen peroxide. So there's a hydrogen peroxide therapy that claims to do a bunch of amazing stuff. I myself tried it too. It didn't really do much for me, to be honest. And I didn't like doing it either, but I did it. I followed the exact protocol, but it didn't work for him. It didn't work for me. This gentleman also tried a frequency device, the Tesla biohealer, med bed type of stuff. I also tried that stuff. It didn't work for him. It didn't work for me either. And unfortunately, he has also passed. And he did try, by the way, he did try conventional treatment and he did do surgery also. It did buy him some time. So I will say that he was able to buy himself some time. But in the end, obviously, he did pass away, unfortunately. Okay, next one, guys. This is one that I don't really want to talk about a lot because people sometimes on the internet get weird about this one, but it's a woman who also is dealing with cancer, unfortunately, very sad. She went the Brown's gas method. And the reason I don't like to talk about this one is just because, again, people's reactions, but this is what really happened to her. She's using a Brown's gas device, one that does use lye. The reason I don't like those is, well, you should never use lye when making hydrogen or Brown's gas, in my opinion, because it's toxic and dirty and it just pollutes the environment, and I don't think it's good for the body either. I believe that you will get some of that in you. It also runs the risk of creating something called hexavalent chromium, something also that's toxic. I just would never do that method, but that's what she did. Now the results for her were, it actually caused her cancer to begin to accelerate. So things really accelerated in a major way. She didn't know why, but this is what she had noticed seemed to have caused it. And it also caused other medical issues for her also. And so she quit that. I did also try Brown's gas. For me personally, it made me sick. I didn't like it. And it was, in my opinion, the lye that was making me feel just terrible. And that was that. So I'll move on to the next one. The next one was actually a friend of mine. There was a gentleman that I knew. It was really sad. He got lung cancer. They didn't catch it super early, but they caught it relatively early. And in this particular case, he actually went to a doctor who was using baking soda. I believe he was an Italian doctor of some sort, if I remember correctly. I remember him flying over there, getting all ready for it, following the exact protocol that this guy was saying, hey, this is gonna fix you and whatnot. And I was excited for him in the sense that I was like, whoa, I've heard of this treatment. I had tried the baking soda protocol, but his was different. This was actually being administered by this particular physician. In the end, it didn't work for him at all. His stuff continued to spread. He didn't want to do conventional therapy, and at the very end, towards the end of his life, he finally decided to do conventional treatment, and it did not work, and unfortunately, he did end up passing. And it was very sad because he wasn't that old. He had kids, he had a family. It was a very sad time. I was very saddened by that one. That was many years ago, before I had really developed my personal protocols. Okay, next one. Next one was an interesting one. This was a woman who actually had breast cancer, and it was really bad. This one had spread all over the place. Doctors told her that she had basically zero chance, that she was pretty much terminal. In this particular case, though, what she decided to do was she did get on my hydrogen protocol, interestingly enough. So she did the hydrogen, the right equipment, the right protocol, but she combined it with conventional treatment. So she did go through the chemo and the whole thing. What was shocking, and there is data, so I'm really big on data, guys. Data has helped me create my protocols. Again, stay tuned because I got some really crazy info at the end that I want to share with you, but I want to finish this list first. In her particular case, it did work. The conventional treatment with the hydrogen, again, there's data supporting this, and it not only worked extremely well, her cancer did go away, and this was a long time ago, and she's still alive to this day, so years and years and years later. So it was really quite remarkable. That was one of the more positive stories. Okay, the next one. The next one was a younger gentleman. I believe he was in his 30s. And this guy also, I'm not going to say what his issue was because I don't think he wants me to share it. It's kind of something I think embarrassing for males is all I'll say. But he didn't want to do conventional treatment. He only wanted to follow the protocol that I had created for myself because I really like to see things work for myself. I personally feel like there's a lot of nonsense out there, unfortunately, and I've always tried to be very factual about what I personally have seen in regards to some of these protocols that I personally have done or created for myself. And it worked for this guy. He completely got rid of the issue, that's all I'll say, and he didn't do any conventional treatment. So that was pretty wild, and I can't go over. So let me just say this. I'm gonna keep going down this list. My protocol, I'm not going to share it here. I can't share it on this platform, but in the future, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, stay tuned, support the channel, because I am going to do a video where I'm going to tell you guys where I'm going to do a video where we're going to talk about different protocols, because I have different ones depending on what the issue is. So I'll talk about that more later, but just stay tuned for that. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, the next one, let's see, which one was this one? Okay, this particular gentleman. He had actually tried a lot of the saunas. I did a lot of the saunas. In fact, I think some of the people on the list had done saunas and even some hot springs. And look, I want to say a few things too. I'm not against the things that didn't work. I think there's things that are just good for your health in general. I think saunas are good. I think hot springs are good. Even fasting is good. But it doesn't mean that it's going to work for something that's this big of a deal, guys. Cancer is a really big deal, and it's not easy to deal with. I've seen a lot of different conditions out there, and depending on the type of cancer, some are just really aggressive and really hard to beat. As everybody can see, there's been a lot of money spent in research in regards to this. So this guy tried the cannabis oil. I'd also tried the cannabis oil, CBD oil, the THC, the mixture of them. He tried all that, it didn't work. He tried fasting, it didn't work, unfortunately. He tried some different dewormers. They didn't quite work. He had tried, he's always into the exercise and different things. So this is about all I remember. I think he might have tried a few other things, but in the end, things didn't work for him, which was unfortunate because his cancer did advance. And then he ended up doing conventional treatment. So he did do the chemotherapy, he did do the radiation, and it definitely has bought him some time, but then he ended up getting cancer again. He went through this, this time he went just with the conventional treatment again, and it appears to have bought him some time. And he's doing actually pretty good in regards to all that. So I'll just leave that one at that. The next one. Some of this other stuff that I just had kind of tried, but before I go into mine, there was one more person. Where was it? Oh yes, a woman. This woman had a brain tumor. It was a really big one. Doctors told her that conventional treatment would, the best they could do, guys, the best of modern technology, all they could do is keep the tumor from growing more. That was the best they could do with radiation, the chemo and everything, was to keep it from growing more. Somebody who knew me wanted me to speak with her, and I ended up talking with her and her husband and her family. And I don't know, I probably shouldn't give too many details. All I'll say is that we spoke, and she wanted to know what I was doing for myself, and I ended up sharing my protocols. She did follow my protocols, but she did it differently. She followed the majority of them. She didn't want to do everything. And one of the most important things is clearly the hydrogen. But she did this, and she combined it with the chemotherapy, that, you know, the radiation and whatnot that they wanted, the conventional treatments. But she combined it with the hydrogen. Remember, there's good data out there in regards to combining these things. That's what she chose to do. But she did a lot of other things that I personally would do if it were me. And for her, her tumor didn't only shrink, which the doctors had told her was impossible. Her tumor completely disappeared. I mean, it was completely gone, and it had gone really well. The sad part is that sometimes people get overconfident. Me personally, I wouldn't. That's why I still continue to treat myself right, and I follow certain protocols that I've created for myself. In her particular case, she just went back to a normal lifestyle. I mean, she was doing great. I remember she was walking, you know, miles a day, and before she couldn't even move half her body because this tumor was pushing up against her brain. All the doctors were absolutely blown away by the results that she had gotten. They just did not expect it. Doing real good. She fell off the wagon. She just totally started living life the normal way, which I wouldn't do. And her cancer came back in a major way. And I'm not going to go into details. I'll just say, without giving too many details, that she decided not to really go back on the protocol. She didn't want to do any of these things anymore. I kind of don't know why, to be honest. And that was that. She ended up, you know, letting this thing progress. I believe she tried to do some conventional treatment again, and it didn't work the second time because there's a lot of things that she wasn't doing that I personally would have done, and she did pass, and so it's pretty unfortunate. But it was really great while she was doing good, and I just wish that she would have kept it up, but that's a whole other thing. And then I'll talk a little bit, I mean, some of the things that I've done just probably the majority of everything on this list that I mentioned. And what else? I also did like colon cleansing. I did a lot of detoxes. I did a lot of liver cleanses. I tried different diets. I did, obviously, the raw food diet. I have tried diets where you would only eat things like only meat and eggs and stuff like that. It was kind of wild, but I was trying a lot of different things in the past. To be honest, I did enzyme therapy. I tried a lot of different supplements. Of course, I did the pine oils. The list is actually really, really long. If I were to make a whole list of everything I've tried, I tried the frequency devices, the med beds, you know, the Tesla biohealers, so many things that didn't really work for me, unfortunately. And it was a long road, and it was a long and expensive road, unfortunately. But if you guys really want to know someday the list of stuff that I tried, I would literally have to sit down and try to recall it all, because it's been years. But I do think that a lot of things that I did were good for my health, and that's always a positive thing. But ultimately, to really beat something really major like cancer, for example, that's a tough one, guys. It's a tough call. So this is the part, if you stay tuned, this was the really good, interesting news. I recently did a video where I shared with you guys about somebody who's dealing with a really severe cancer that started down low, and that it had also metastasized into the lungs, into the lymphatic system, into the liver. It was pretty bad. This person was only given about 6 months to live if they were to refuse conventional treatment. If they were to do conventional treatment, he was being told that he could have a year, maybe 2. So the prognosis wasn't good one way or another. This was something that was really, really bad. And I was super excited the other day, which is one of the reasons I made the video, because he decided, I'm actually helping him. So I've been doing a lot of things to help him, and he's following, you know, the type of protocol that I would personally follow if I were to have an issue. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, the reason I was excited is because he recently got a scan, and the results were way more than I had anticipated. The shrinking of tumors was quite dramatic. This is the part that I didn't say in the last video because it hadn't happened yet. I ended up getting a phone call later from a doctor. This was really interesting. He saw the information. He calls me, and you know what he tells me, you guys? He says, "I want to know everything that you're doing." And I was like, wow, okay, somebody's actually taking interest. This is kind of interesting. And so I started talking about the different things. And as we're talking, I realized he obviously has some really great knowledge. This guy has definitely done his research. He's really well informed. He's read massive amounts of books, looked at massive amounts of data, and tried a lot of things on himself, because what he disclosed to me was that he apparently has cancer. And I was like, whoa. And he doesn't want to do conventional treatment. I mean, I'm just telling you what he told me. And he was giving me the reasons why. And I actually had asked him, I said, you know, would you be interested in being like on a podcast, maybe getting on camera, do a little talking? I thought it'd be really cool. What I hadn't realized was he actually said, you know, I think I'm going to have to decline. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, really, why? I mean, why don't you want to talk about this? And he said, look, to be honest, I'm concerned about putting myself out there publicly and talking about these type of things. He said, I could lose my license. And I was like, whoa, I hadn't really thought about that, but I have met other doctors who are actually in the process of losing their license or have lost their license. So I understand that this is kind of a big deal. And I do understand that giving proper information is important. So he didn't really want to do that, but what he did want to do, or what he really did want to know, was what I exactly did, because he saw something that is working. And even I was super shocked, and he was shocked. And so he said, please, just lay it out for me. Let's talk about what it is that you would do, and let's just go over some of it. So we started going over some of it, and as I'm literally sharing all this information with him, and I didn't even go into detail yet, it was kind of a broad thing, he kind of stopped me 3/4 of the way through, or towards the end, and he's like, how in the world did you come up with this? He goes, I would have never thought of combining this with that and the way that you're doing things. He goes, I would have never thought about doing that in a million years. And in a lot of ways, it goes against certain conventional ideas that I personally have, or even some data that I've read in books. And I've seen myself a lot of contradictory information and data, and I've had to navigate in a very different way than the conventional way. I mean, I meditate on things, but I also look at data. I use my gut instincts, and I've just done things that to me make sense, and to him, a lot of this stuff wasn't making sense. It was kind of hilarious. And I actually thought towards the end he was going to say something like, forget it. But what he told me was, he goes, although I don't necessarily understand why you're doing the things that you're doing, and he'd ask me how I came up with stuff, and I would share some of it. In the end, he said, but I'm going to completely trust it, because look at these results. They speak for themselves. And it was funny because I could feel the vibe, the energy from him, that he was like, I don't really agree with what you're necessarily saying, but I cannot go against what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing here is something that appears to be working. And so that was it, guys. It was really quite exciting. I hope maybe we'll get him on camera someday in the future. Maybe he just won't disclose who he is. I don't know. But don't forget to share. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, because again, I'm going to try to share some of this information through a different avenue in the future. So you guys just stay tuned, hit that notification bell, and I'll let you guys know not only when I'm going to do it, but where I'm going to do it, because it's most likely not going to be here. So thanks for watching, guys. Remember, this was not medical advice, no medical claims, absolutely nothing of the sort. Just sharing with you guys information, things that I have personally seen throughout the years. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on the next one.